Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Rosh HaShanna Tesvav. We begin 11 lines from the top of the Amud. Ba'oimine Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yana. Yesterday we learned that typically a fruit tree follows the Chanata stage, meaning on the year in which it experienced budding, Chanata. That's the year that it relates to when it comes to Arla, Shvius, Maaser, because the budding process really initiates the entire growth of that fruit. Rosh HaShanna learns that there's a potential fruit in that bud. The sraf, the sap, rises into the tree at that point and creates that bud, which is a mini fruit. That little mini fruit develops into the subsequent fruit. So, on the year in which it developed that bud, that's the year that it relates to. It relates to that crop, that season, when it comes to all these halachas. So, for instance, according to Beis Hillel, Tu B'Shvat is the cutoff point. Chanata before Tu B'Shvat relates to last year's crop. If Chanata occurs after Tu B'Shvat, it relates to the current year's crop. When it comes to an esrog, we find the difference. Why? An esrog is sort of like a hybrid. It's on the one hand a fruit tree, but it also has the element of a vegetable to it. You see, when it comes to a vegetable, we don't follow chanata. As we learned yesterday, a vegetable is something which needs to be constantly watered and taken care of. It's constantly growing and developing. You don't have it until you actually pick it. Otherwise, you don't water it, it dries up on you. So, it can't relate to the year on which its growth was initiated. It doesn't work like that. It's a pending creature. It's something which needs to be watered and taken care of. And therefore, you don't really have it until you have it. And when it comes to vegetables, which year does it relate to? What determines? Likita. When you pick it, you have it. That's the year that it relates to. If you pick it now, it relates to the current season, the current crop, the current year. Now, esrog has two aspects to it. It's a fruit tree, like any other, in which case you should follow the chanata system, the budding system, which generates the esrog that follows, or perhaps not, since an esrog tree is delicate, needs to be constantly watered, and in fact the esrogim will remain on that tree for a while, 2-3 years, until you actually pick them. So perhaps in that sense it's similar to a vegetable. It just keeps on growing, and you have to water it to keep it growing. So perhaps it won't relate back to the chanata stage. Rather, let's follow the likita. When you have a finished product, it relates to this year, the year of picking. When it comes to maaser, of course. When it comes to other halachas, not. Shemitah and arla, that connects to the seasons, to the rainwater, the cycle, the calendar year. It's more of a land-related concept. Shvius is asur b'avodas karka. It's a kedusha sa'ar. These things are more land-related. They're seasonal. They're calendar-related. So of course over there you follow the chanata, the budding process. So in the end, which it budded, that's the end that it relates to. When it comes to maaser, that's more connected to the actual watering of the tree. And if you keep on watering it, as it grows and develops, perhaps when it comes to the maaser halacha, you should follow the moment of picking. So we actually mentioned the shita yesterday that held as such. It was shita as Rabban Gamliel. Although when it comes to other halachas, for instance, Shemitah, you follow chanata. It relates to the year in which it budded. But when it comes to maaser, you follow likita. Of course, this is only by the esrog. So, continue on this topic. It says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yana. Rabbi Yehuda asked Rabbi Yana like this. So we speak about an esrog having both aspects. And when it comes to maaser, we follow likita. Let's evaluate. Let's analyze. If so, when is the Rosh HaShanna? You see, when it comes to a fruit tree, the turning point is Tu B'Shvat. That's the time of Chanata. Right? So if Chanata happened before Tu B'Shvat, it's last year's Chanata, because that's when the Chanata occurs. It's a product of that season. But when it comes to vegetables, which follow Lakita, That has to do with the calendar year. Right? It's not a seasonal thing. It has nothing to do with the rain season and the Sraf and the Chanata. You pick it before Echad B'Tishrei, it's last year's. After Echad B'Tishrei, it's this year's. Here comes the question. What about an esrog when it comes to Maser? If you follow Lakita, do you stick with Tu B'Shvat, like the other halachas of the esrog tree, Shvi'is, etc., or do you say no? Once we're treating them like a vegetable, when it comes to Maser, you follow the point of picking, and that relates to the calendar year, Echad B'Tishrei, like a vegetable. And we actually concluded yesterday, that although we follow Lakita, but Lakita before and after Tu B'Shvat, we just give it the same halachas as all the other elements in that fruit tree which are Tu B'Shvat related. So that was his question. When it comes to Maser, what is considered the Rosh HaShanna for the esrog tree? Amalei Shvat. We stick to Shvat. He asked further, Shvat Chadoshim or Shvat de Tkufa? Do we follow the lunar year or the solar year? You'd think that the growth of this esrog tree is associated with the solar system, with the seasonal situation, not with the lunar months, which is a Jewish concept. So is it Shvat Chadoshim? Is it the Tu B'Shvat related to the lunar months, the Jewish calendar, which can be very much off base as per the solar system? It can be very inconsistent. It can be totally out of sync with the Shvat Tkufa. So which one is it? Shvat Chadoshim or Shvat Tkufa? Or do we look at the Chodesh Shvat as it pertains to the solar year? So in the solar year you have 30-day months, and you have a bit more than 30 days, and you have the Tkufas, Teves, when the winter Tkufa begins December 21st. It's a 3-month Tkufa, which we'll call a Tkufa that consists of Teves, Shvat, and other solar-related months, which isn't necessarily in line with the lunar months. Different system, right? The solar year has 365 days, lunar year 354. We generally lag behind, right? The Shvat Chadashim lags behind Shvat Tkufa. So which one is it? Do we follow lunar or solar? Amalei de Chadashim. We follow lunar. Asks Taisis, what do you mean? The Paris develop and ripen based on the sun. So he says, we find a pasuk that the moon also has an effect. Number 2, Yisraelim meinen l'Levana. Fact is, we follow the Levana. Asks the Cham Sefer, what does this mean? How does that affect the fruit? So he says, perhaps based on the Yerushalmi. Pasuk says, Lokel goymer alai, that Hashem completes what we do. Hashem confirms what Bezdin does. And he says, perhaps what Taisus means is that the Kiddush HaChodesh and the lunar system affects the seasons as well, affects the fruit development. And the fruit will ripen based on the Jewish calendars, not based on the solar calendar. In any case, that was his response. We follow Shvat Chadoshim. Okay, so he asked him further. This is Rava. Rav Nachman. Rava asked Rav Nachman. Some say Rabbi Yehuda Kessler. What if it was a leap year? What happens then? Then the lunar months really lag behind the full month. So which one's Tu B'Shvat? Tu B'Shvat of the Chodesh Levana, or is it Tu B'Shvat in the solar system? Amalei halech acharev shanim. We follow the majority of years. We don't differentiate. Rashi says Misha Shmoi Shvat. We're speaking about Dinim D'Rabbanan, Masa D'Rabbanan. We stick to standard. Tu B'Shvat is Tu B'Shvat. Doesn't make a difference which year it is. We just keep things simple and consistent. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rab. Okay, so now we're following this shita that an esrog tree has 2 elements, 2 aspects. A fruit tree element, in which case he follows chanata, time of budding, when it comes to halachas of Orla, Shemitah. But when it comes to Maser, the moment of picking, Lakita, is what counts. Amar Rabba. What about a case where you have an esrog bas shishis, a 6th year esrog. So the Chanata took place year 6 of the Shemitah cycle. Shenichnas al Shviz, that goes into year 7. It had Chanata year 6 before Shemitah. It was picked on year 7. Petura min ha-maser u'petura min ha-bir. There's no halacha of bir, because it's not a Shemitah fruit. It had a Chanata last year. So bir means even if there's none available for the animals out in the field, you don't have to clear it out of your house. You can still hold on to it. Basically what he's saying is, there's no Kedusha Shvius, there's Esrog, because Chanata occurred before Shemitah. And it's also Pata from Maser. And you'll ask, why is it Pata from Maser? If it's a 6th year product, it's not a Shemitah fruit. The only reason why it would be Pata from Maser is because it's Hefker. Shemitah, all fruit was Hefker, and Hefker is Pata from Maser. So why is it Pata from Maser? Even though it had Chanata last year. The Morrison will tell us because everybody's trampling over the field, and it's just, he forfeits it. So it's more of a circumstantial Hefker than a halachic Hefker. So that's the first case. You have an esrog coming from year 6 to year 7. It's not really a Shemitah fruit. But if it's a year 7 going to year 8, then a Chanata year 7, which is Shemitah, and gives it Kedusha Shvius, and it was picked year 8, Petura b'maser, mina maser, b'chayvus b'bir. In this case, certainly it's a full-fledged Shemitah product. It had Chanata on Shemitah. And therefore it's Chay b'bir, and it's Pata from Maser, because it's Hefker. Only Abaye. Now Abaye figured that Rabbi had a suffix. He was uncertain as to the halacha of how to determine the Shvi's status of the esrog. Does it indeed follow the moment of Chanata or the moment of Lakita, just like Maser? We're actually going to see a shita later that holds that an esrog tree follows Lakita as pertaining to Maser and to Shemitah. So Abaye figured that Rabbi had that suffix. He wasn't sure whether Shemitah follows Chanata or Lakita. And therefore he went l'chumra. Everything l'chumra. And that's why in the first case where it went from year 6 to year 7, he said it's Pata for Maser, because even though it had Chanata last year, year 6, before Shemitah, perhaps Lakita determines its Shemitah status, was picked on Shemitah, and therefore it's Hefker, and it's Pata from Maser. So he figured that Rabbi was going l'chumra. On the one hand, we go Basar Chanata, if it's a chumra, or Basar Lakita, if it's a chumra. Amle Abaye. But then it won't work out. Bishleim is Sefer l'chumra. I understand that the second part of your halach is l'chumra. You're not sure which way to go. You go l'chumra. That's why if it's going from 6 to 7, we consider it Perish Shviz, because it has Chanata on Shviz. We adopt the view that Chanata is what's Kiveya, what determines by Shviz. Ela Reisha. But in the first case, where it went from year 6 to year 7, you're telling me that it's l'chumra, and therefore we have to be choishish. Perhaps l'kita is what determines. It was picked on Shemitah. It's hefker, it's pata from Maser, right? But it doesn't seem that you have a suffix, because when you have a suffix, you'll go l'chumra. And what did you say? You told me that if it's from year 6 to year 7, it's pata from beer. It's not considered a Shemitah fruit. It doesn't have Kedusha Shvius. Why? Because it had Chanata year 6. So you are determining with certainty that Chanata is what determines. You're going to Kula. Ela Reisha P'tur Min HaBir Amai. Why is it pata from beer if it had Chanata year 6 and was picked year 7? Dam Rinan Zil Basa Chanata. Apparently you know definitively Chanata is Kaveya when it comes to Shemitah. So it's not a suffix. If it's a suffix, you can't go L'Kula. You have to be Machmer on all accounts. You're pretty much going L'Kula there. When it went from 6 to 7, it's not Kaddish, it's Pata from beer, because Chanata determines. That's why in the second case, going from 7 to 8, it was Kaddish B'Kedusha Shviz, because once again, Chanata is what determines. I have one more kasha. You're being inconsistent. So why in the Reisha, going from 6 to 7? On the one hand, you're saying Chanata determines. It's a non-Shemitah fruit, because Chanata year 6. Okay, I accept that. There's no Chiyuv Biur, it's not Kaddish. But why do you say it's Pata from Maser? Which sounds like you're treating it like Peirush Shemitah, which is Hefker. What do you mean? T'chayv Ma'aser. We're not Chanata year 6. It's not a Shemitah fruit. Rabbi responded, you're right. I knew for a fact that when it comes to Shemitah, Chanata determines. I had no suffix. And that's why in the second case, from 7 to 8, it's Shemitah. Chanata on year 7. In the first case, 6 to 7, it's not Shemitah. No Chiyuv Bir. So why is it put from Maser? I'll tell you why. Look, it's Shemitah. Everybody's trampling this field. There's no way he's going to protect that one esrog tree sitting on the side. Everybody's touching and handling it. It's a by default hefker. But amrus techayv and maser. You're going to tell me it's chayv and maser. Although he's not too happy about it. Now, this is not technically a Shemitah tree. Nobody has business touching it, but the fact is everybody's trampling over it. And he's pretty much forfeiting his rights to this tree. It's hefker. And therefore it's not chayv and maser, just like any hefker, which is patam and a maser. But Rav Amnuna Amar, no, he disagrees with this concept. He says circumstantial hefker is not hefker. They're ganavim. They have no business touching this tree. And therefore, bas shishis, shenechnesas l'shvius. If it's going from 6 to 7, lo ilum shishis. We treat it like year 6, meaning it's not Shemitah and it's chayv and maser. I don't accept this svara. The fact that everybody's running around this field doesn't make it hefker. They're gazlanim. Uba shvius, shenechnesas l'shminis. But when you have the tree going from 7 to 8, in which case the Chanata was on year 7, Loilam Shviz, of course, it's considered Shemitah for all purposes. So there's one small nafkamina between Rav Amnuna, who disagreed with Rabba's Chiddush, that a circumstantial forced Hefker is considered Hefker. Bottom line is, both Rabba and Rav Amnuna are based on the same concept, that Chanata is what determines when it comes to Shemitah. Meisvei, listen to this kasha from a brisa, which is going to be a kasha on both shittas. Number one, on Rav Amnuna, who did not reckon this circumstantial forfeiture as a proper hefker. In the brisa we're going to see otherwise. Number two, it's going to be a kasha on everybody who considered Chanata the pivotal point when it comes to Kedusha Shemitah. And the brisa says otherwise. Lakita is what determines. Meisvei. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, Imam Rishon Rabbi Shimon. He's quoting Rabbi Shimon regarding an esrog. Vashishis shenechnesas l'shvius. It was grown on 7, picked on 8. P'tur ben maser. There's no maser. It's considered hefker. U'p'tur ben abir, and it's not kadosh b'kedusha shvius. Now you'll ask me, why is it pata from maser? He says because why is it pata from maser? Because really, it had chanot on year 6, which is not Shemitah. It's not hefker. Why is it pata from maser? So he explains, she'en l'chadava shechai b'maser. You only have chiyuv maser in the following case: elam ken goda b'chiyuv, v'nokat b'chiyuv. If it was grown in a year where it's chayv and maser and picked in a year of chiyuv, as opposed to this esrog tree, which was picked during Shemitah, everybody's all over the place. It's a circumstantial hefker. It's a kasha on Rav Amnuna, who didn't hold it as svar. The brisa continues. The next kasha will be on both shittas. Up until now, we learned Chanota determines the status of the Shemitah fruit. Here we see otherwise. Uba shvius shenechnesas l'shminis. You have an esrog tree. Started in year 7, ended in year 8. P'tur b'na maser, there's no maser. U'p'tur b'na beer, there's no beer. Why is there no beer? What do you mean? What was Chanata? On Shemitah, on year 7. So he explains. She'en l'chadav shechai b'beer, the only time you have beer is elam ken goda b'shvius, v'nilkat b'shvius. If it grew on Shemitah and picked on Shemitah. Rashi brings a pasuk, the concept of beer, of sending out the supplies for the animals, was only said on something picked on Shemitah. We don't follow Chanata when it comes to these halachas. There's a kasha on all shittas who held that when it comes to Shemitah, Chanata determines. Reisha, the first halacha, which told us that circumstantial forfeiture, the fact that everybody's running around your field, that creates a hefker situation and exempts it from maser. That's kasha l'Rav Amnuna. who didn't hold that svara. Seifa, the second part of the Brisa, which says that when it comes to halachas of Shemitah, we don't follow chanata, rather we follow the moment of picking. That's a kasha on everybody. Kashi bein l'Rabba, bein l'Rav Amnuna. Answers the Gemara Tanai. You're right. There's a machlekes Tanaim. They were following the shita that held that Shemitah follows chanata, although Maser follows Lakita. That depends on the practical side of the esrog tree, how much water it needs and to which crop it belongs to. But when it comes to Shemitah, the other halachas, it's more of a ground-related halacha, a land-related halacha, and the land and the year on which that sap was generated, which triggered the chemical reaction, which eventually developed that fruit. That's the year that's kaveh when it comes to Shemitah. So that was the shita we had up until this point. And we're going to see soon, there's another shita that holds that an esrog tree is so unique that pertaining to all halachas, even Shemitah, you follow the moment of Lakita. It's like a regular vegetable. We ignore the fruit tree aspect. Tanoi, we have machlekes Tanaim, and in fact, this Bryce that we just mentioned will follow that Tana. When it comes to Shemitah as well, we follow Lakita. The Sanya, Omar Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi quoted Avtumus, who was Hayed Mishum Chamisha Zakin, testified in the name of 5 elders, Esrig Achal Lakita Sala Maser. When it comes to Maser, you follow the moment of picking. But not when it comes to Shemitah. That follows Chanata. For Rabbi Seinu, however, Rabbi Seinu, Nimnu B'Usha, when the Bezdin went to Usha, they took count there, and they concluded, V'amru, that an esrog follows Likita pertaining to all halachas. Acha Likitase ben Lamaser, ben Lashvias. You follow the moment of picking, whether it comes to Maser or Shemitah. It's treated completely like a vegetable. Shvias man dechar Shmei, whoever mentioned anything on Shemitah here? Tanakama only mentioned Maser. The Bryce is meant to be learned as though it's missing some words. The Bryce begins that Avtum comes and says, Esrig achal kitase l'maser. When it comes to halachas of Maser, Esrig follows the moment of picking. Dafka by Maser. V'achachanot l'shvius. When it comes to shvius, which is more land related, kedusha related, you follow the moment of budding when the land generated that growth. So we make that differentiation between Maser and Shemitah. And in fact, this is the shita of Rabbi Gamliel that we had yesterday, and this is the shita of Rabbi Amnuna that we learned today. But the Brisa continues, Rabbi Seinu Nimnu Meusha, but the other shita says no. Achal Lakitase ben Lamaser ben Lashvias. And esrog follows the Lakita, whether pertaining to Maser or to Shemitah. Itmar, Rabbi Yehuda, Reish Lakish Amrit Havayu, they hold the other way around. They hold like Rabbi Lezer that we had yesterday, that an esrog is a fruit tree, which follows the point of Chanata, pertaining to everything, Maser and Shemitah. And therefore they both said, Amrit Havayu, esrog bas shishis, shenichon sol shvius. You have an esrog tree coming from year 6 to year 7, Chanata on year 6, picking on year 7, lo'edam shishis. It is considered a 6th year product pertaining to everything, even to Maser. Its primary growth is derived from the moment of Chanata. In there lies the potential fruit. That's it. So even though quantitatively it's growing and growing, and perhaps way more on the 7th year than the 6th year, it doesn't matter, because it derived its power, its DNA from that moment of Chanata. That bud subsequently produced this huge esrog, and therefore you follow Chanata pertaining to everything. He also Rabin. When Rabin came along, Omar Rabbi Yechon, he said, name Rabbi Yechon, he came from Eretz Yisrael, he quoted Rabbi Yechon, esrog bas shishis, same thing. 6th year esrog, shnichsel shvius, which was picked on Shemitah, afilu kazayis v'nasas kikyo, even though it was only a small kazayis, and suddenly it turned into a loaf of bread, meaning the esrog grew exponentially on Shemitah itself. Chayav nelehem mishum tevel, guess what? It's considered a 6th year product, and there's tevel involved. You have to separate the true and maser, because we follow the Chanata point, even by an esrog. Oh, so what's the halach of the esrog? What is an esrog? It's a fruit tree, but it's gadol kol mayim, meaning you have to manually water it, and it grows and grows until you pick it. So in that sense, perhaps it should be treated like a vegetable. So it's a hybrid creature. like Esrog Murkav, has a tree element to it and a vegetable element to it. So what do? You have three shittas. Shittas Rabbi Lezer, mentioned yesterday in the Mishnah, which is actually shittas Rabbi Yechon and Rish Lakish mentioned right now. They hold the Esrog follows the point of Chanata, it's a fruit tree, that's all that counts. Whether it's Shvius related or Maser related, Chanata is what counts. So if the Chanata occurs before Tu B'Shvat, it belongs to last year. If it was after Tu B'Shvat, it belongs to this year. Whereas according to Rabbi Gamliel, mentioned yesterday, which is also Shitas of Tumas, mentioned today, we make that distinction between Shvius, which follows Chanata. Now, we actually had a unique case there with the Gemara Machlokes Rabban and Rav Nuna. So on a Chanata in year 6, and it was picked in year 7, what is the halacha regarding Maser? Because really, in this case, it's not Shemitah. It's a 6th-year fruit. The Chanata occurred in year 6. It says Rabbi, it's still pater from Maser because Yad HaKol B'Mashvishin, everybody's trampling over the field. It's a by default hefker. Rav Hamnuna disagreed. He says no, it's a 6-year product. It's chayv and maser. Regarding hilchas maser, we follow the moment of lakita. Now, the Gemara did point out for us that although we follow the moment of lakita, which sounds similar to the vegetable concept, but the Rosh HaShanna still remains Tu B'Shvat, and we follow the Chodesh Lavana, lunar calendar, and even by Yeshana Muberes. The third shita was Rabbi Seina B'Usha, that even when it comes to an esrog tree, even though it's a fruit tree, we consider it like a vegetable on all counts. On the account of Shvius, and also on account of Maser, you always follow the moment of Lakita. Tan Rabbanan. So we speak about a fruit tree, depending on Tu B'Shvat, that being the starting point of his year. Ilon shechontu peroisav koden Tu B'Shvat. If the tree's fruit received their chanata stage before Tu B'Shvat, mis asel l'shana she'avar relates to last year's maser. Acha Tu B'Shvat, if experienced chanata after Tu B'Shvat, mis asel l'shana haba, it assumes the halachos of the current year when it comes to maser. That's the Tanakama. Tu B'Shvat is the turning point. Amar Rabbi Nechemya, when is this said? Be'ilan she'oisa shtei brechas b'shana. See, Rabbi Nechemya looks at it like this. Really, Truma Maser of fruit trees is only din the Rabban, and Rabban sought to make it convenient for us, make it easy, clear, and consistent. Therefore, says Rabbi Nechemya, it depends on the tree. It depends what's easier. Because really, why don't you follow the moment of Lakita when it comes to a fruit tree as well? That's the Gemara Pri, it's a finished product. It relates to the year in which it was picked. So he learns that the whole concept of following the moment of Chanata, of budding, was only out of convenience. Chacham made it easier for us. It streamlined the procedure. Because some fruits are picked today, some tomorrow, some the next day, which creates confusion. Follow Chanata, which is a uniform event in time. Right? So it depends on the tree. Depends which system is easier. That's the system they're going to apply. When do we say the moment of Chanata determines? That's only when it's the easier option. In a tree which produces 2 shipments, two productions of fruit. So shtei brecha is actually a term used by birds, where we have 2 birds being produced every month. So a tree whose fruit doesn't really ripen at once, right? It has, actually in the Havamim, the Gemara figured mamish, it has 2 brechas, it produces twice a year. So to avoid confusion, we follow the moment of Chanata. Otherwise, you have to keep track which one was picked before, which one was picked later. Said in 1 second, shtei brechas hakadaitach. Why are you using this term shtei brechas, which applies to birds? Ella ema ke'en shtei brechas. All he meant to say was like this. He applied this phrase shtei brechas to bring out his point. Just as the birds come about every month, we're talking about a tree whose fruit don't really ripen at once, like a fig tree. Ever saw a fig tree? It's not all ripe at once. couple ripen today, a couple tomorrow. So in that case, it creates confusion. So you follow the Lakita. And that's what Chacham said, follow Chanata, which happens all at the same time. But if it's a tree whose fruit ripen all at once, going to Kalam, palm trees, Vizaysim, olives, Churuvin, carob, in that case, we follow the moment of Lakita, which makes more sense. Even though their fruit had the Chanata before Tu B'Shvat, no, they connect to this year. They relate to the following year, the year in which they were picked. And actually, it's more convenient and clear and consistent to do this process, to follow the Lakita as opposed to Chanata. Otherwise, you have to keep track which tree had Chanata there, which one there. No, follow the moment of Lakita, clear. It's in front of you. This is the moment of the Maser. So Machlekes, Tanakama says, no, Chanata is always the determinant factor when it comes to fruit trees. And Rechami says, depends on the situation. Sometimes Chanata, sometimes Lakita, depending on what's easier. Or Rabbi Yehuda, in fact, Noagu ha'am b'charuvin k'Nechemya. Everybody follows Rabbi Nechemya's shita when it comes to carobs. Just an example. They adopted his approach that if it's clear and easier to do it this way, follow the Lakita even by fruit trees. Asked Rabbi Yehuda Kasha, how can you say that? We follow Rabbi Nechemya, we don't follow the moment of Chanata? Isn't it this Mishnah and Shemitah and Shvius? B'nai Shuach, certain type of fig tree. Shvius Shalahan Shnia. You know on which year we observe Shemitah when it comes to these figs? The second year of the Shemitah cycle. Basically 3 years after Shemitah. You know why? Because it takes them 3 years to grow. Says Rashi, 4 or 5 lines before the widening of the lines. B'nai Shuach, these white figs. Some say it's the Sikma tree. Shvi Shlan Shnia, says Rashi, Shvi Shlan Noiheges, B'shana Shnia Shal Shemitah. On the second year of the Shemitah cycle, which is pretty much 3 years after Shemitah, you treat the fruit B'ktusha Shvi's. The Farish Tam, as the Mishnah explains, you know why? The fruit which experienced Chanata on Shemitah takes 3 years for it to develop. You only see the actual fruit. It's going to fully ripen and develop 3 years later. We follow the moment of Chanata. Since Chanata occurred during Shemitah, even though you only picked it 3 years later, it doesn't matter. It has to do Shvius. It's pretty clear, says Rish Lakish. Even a tree whose fruit ripen incrementally and in an unpredictable manner, what determines its status? Chanata. So how can you say, Noagu Amker Nechemya, we follow Lakita? Ishtik, says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda remained silent. He didn't respond. The Gemara soon will explain what his motive was. Amali Rab Abba Koyin, Rabbi Yesi Koyin. Amai Ishtik. Why was Rabbi Yehuda silent? He could have responded very clearly to Rish Lakish. Lamely, he should have told him, Amin Allah, Amin Allah Chana, Rabbi Nechemya. You know, I was related to Rabbi Nechemya's Shita. V'at Amasli Rabbanon. You're bringing me a kasha from a Mishnah, which is Shita's Rabbanon. I was speaking Rabbi Nechemya. Mishum de Amalei. You know why he couldn't tell him this? Because otherwise Rish Lakish would have told him, Shavkas Rabbanon. Why would you abandon the Rabbanon, the Rabbim? V'avdas Rabbi Nechemya, Father Rabbi Nechemya. Why would you condone the Minhag Ha'olam if it's inconsistent with the halacha with Shita's Rabbanon? That's why he couldn't respond. What do you mean? V'leimele, he could have told him, Kamin loch nagu. I wasn't condoning, I wasn't supporting, I was just conveying a fact. The Minhag Ha'olam is to follow Rabbi Nechemya, follow Lakita. That's all. But Amasli Isura, you're speaking to me about Isurim. I also agree that you're not meant to follow Lakita, rather the Chanata, as proven from the Mishnah and Shemitah. I was just relating to a fact. The Minhag Ha'olam is otherwise. So why couldn't he say that? Why couldn't he defend himself in this manner? You know why? Because Rish Lakish would have told him. Had he responded, Rish Lakish would have told him, "B'makim Isura." If it's in a place of Isur, ki noagu, just because everybody's following it, shaf kinalu, we allow it. Why would you allow them to do it? If you know the Rabbanan disagree, it's an Isur to follow Lakita when you have to follow Chanata. The fact that Rabbi Yehuda is conveying it and not protesting sounds like he's okay with it. So that's why this response wouldn't have worked. But he still could have told Rish Lakish, there's a big difference between a maser by a fruit tree, which is the Rabbanan, and the halacha that you quoted, the Shvius, which is the Raisa, where we have to follow Chanata. I was speaking about Maser pertaining to carob trees, which is only Rabbanon. Rabbanon applied whichever system is more convenient. And you bring me a raya from a Shemitah, which is Daraisa, which of course has to follow the Chanata. I understand. But when it's the Rabbanon, who says that we have to stick with Chanata? So why couldn't he just respond? Why do you have to remain silent? Sound like he didn't have a response. Ella Omer Abba Kohen responds and says like this. Tmihani, I wonder, in Yeshiva, Rish Lakish L'tshuvazu, for Rish Lakish really ever asked him this question, because he could have just responded with ease to the question. What do you mean, in Yeshiva did he ask him? Oh, so of course he asked him. We know for a fact he asked him. Ella Ema, rather, Rabbi Abba Kohen just meant to say, I'm not sure why he remained silent. Was it im kibla? Did he accept the challenge? That's why he remained silent for loss of words? Im kibla Rabbi Yechanan? Im like kibla. Perhaps he just sort of ignored him because it was such a far out raya. How could you compare Shvias to Maser? And he didn't accept the challenge to the halacha, and that's why he didn't respond. It says Rashi 3 lines on the bottom. I'm not sure whether im kibla v'hayde ishtek mishum lo yad l'hashiv, did he accept it? Did he agree with him? That's why he didn't respond. Im like kibla, or perhaps he didn't accept it. V'hayde ishtek, so why did he remain silent? He didn't bother responding. How do you compare two things, apples and oranges? You're right, Shvius is Daraisa. You have to stick to Chanata, which is the halacha pertaining to fruit trees. That's considered the instigator of its growth. It all relates back to Chanata. But when it comes to Maser Rabbanon, sometimes Chanata, sometimes Lakita, depending on what's easier and more convenient. Okay, so what did we learn today? We had several shittas regarding an esrig. Right? Some hold you always follow the Chanata. Some hold you always follow the Lakita. And some hold when it comes to Shemitah, the Chanata reigns. When it comes to Maser, the Lakita is what determines. And even so, the Rosh HaShanna remains Tu B'Shvat of Levana, even in a leap year. Then we'll conclude it with Rabbi Yehuda, who says, Noagu Amker Nechemya Be Charuvin. And the point here is that you're right, when it comes to Shemitah, we follow the Chanata. Shemitah Daraisa has to follow Chanata. But Maser, which is only the Rabbanon, when it comes to these types of fruit trees, which are only the Rabbanon, by the way, Tesis says, although the Gemara does mention Zaysim, but that's the Daraisa, certainly you can't put that into the list. The Gemara Agav mentions it, but really it only pertains to the other fruit trees which are Midrabbanon. So then, it depends. If it's a tree whose fruit will not ripen all at once, so the Lakita formula is actually more confusing than the Chanata, then you follow Chanata. But otherwise, if they all ripen at once, just follow Lakita, the moment of Gemara Pri, and that determines the Maser status. Much tzachah to you and Kol Tov.